Hello everyone, welcome to Animators Breakfast, which is a podcast where we talk about inspiration with different people who work in the animation industry. And today I've got a really lovely, wonderful treat. I've got the ever bubbly and powerful Jessie, aka the Jupus. How are you, Jessie?
I'm the Jupus.
Tell me about the Jupus. Like, where did that come from?
So in high school, my friend said my name, but I misheard her, and I thought she said Jeppy, and so I asked her if that's what she said. She said no, but that's what I'm gonna call you from now on. Yeah, so I was like, okay. And so my boyfriend, who wasn't my boyfriend at the time, he started calling me Joopy. There's the Beepus meme.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
They just added an S on it, so they were like making fun of everybody's name and like trying to turn it into the Beepus meme, and they were like Joopies or whatever, and then it turned into Jupus.
That's a pretty good story, to be fair, about a nickname.
That's pretty lame.
No, I like it. It's well, it's not like you got it saving children from tigers or something. That'd be a cool story. But I think it's a good build to it, a nickname. It didn't just happen.
Yeah.
Or you didn't just choose it yourself.
And I was like, everybody calls me this now, so please call me this.
Jessie is, or the Jupe, or we'll just call her Jupe. She's an animator, artist, YouTuber, character designer, and pumpkin carver. And Jessie, to be honest, like when I first came across your work, it was probably the League of Legends videos you did. Mm-hmm. Like Tam Kench and Ivern. Yeah, and Ivern. And there was something kind of really charming about them that I really, really liked. I don't know what it is. I think it's a combination of the drawings and the voice.
Oh, yeah.
It's just there's kind of a charming cutesiness to it.
The reason why I made those was because I think at the time I made the Tom Kench video and I wanted to make it and really break into the League of Legends content creators. And so a lot of them went away for some kind of it's called Creators Lab, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
And they all like took a break from the internet for a little bit to go to that. So it's like Riot will fly you out to go do that, and I was like, I want to do that one day. So they all left, and I was like, okay, while they're gone, I'm just gonna like make this video.
Yeah. Let me slap in two in there.
Everyone's gonna watch it because like they have no other content to watch right now because no one's releasing anything. Like it took me a really long time to finish the video because I had self-doubt about it. I was just like, this isn't funny. People aren't gonna like this. Oh my god, what am I doing? I'm an idiot. And so I just put it out, and I thought like, oh well, it's kind of dumb, like it's just a dumb animation. So I wanted to make it more accessible to people, and just make it funny. Like even if you didn't play League, you could still get something out of it.
Yeah, but they were really good. They were so good. I've got to say, they really impressed me. Yes. But as much as we love you, Jessie, we're not here to talk about you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. We're here to talk about something that you chose, which is obviously the theme of the show, which is where people pick stuff. So tell us a bit about what you chose there.
So I chose the Last Unicorn. It was hard to pick something, but
was it really?
Because I didn't really know anything else to talk about that wasn't, I don't know, something that I could relate to, because The Last Unicorn was like, it kind of encapsulates a lot of stuff about my childhood and what I grew up liking.
I'm always really curious to see why people pick these things, because obviously, look, The Last Unicorn, which is really weird to say, but I don't think it has a huge following here, not in Ireland anyways. I think people are aware of it, but they might not have watched it. But people who have watched it are, from what I see, are very, very, very defensive of it because they loved it. It's the exact same thing. It's like a childhood kind of experience mitigated into a film, but it's the themes and stuff that they're kind of defensive of, rather than the animation or the technical details of it. Do you know
There's
what I mean?
a lot of like weird plot holes. Like, why did this happen? Like, what is happening? Because I watched it recently just as a refresher, and I got a lot of questions about it.
Do you want to know something? I'd never watched it before
No?
until you had said, this is what I'm going to watch. And I was like, okay. It had been on my it had been on my list, but I'd never actually watched it. It took me a bit to get into it, but I can see why people loved it as kids. I can definitely see that. But at the start, I was like, what is happening here? Especially the bit where the butterfly comes in, and I'm just like, is this what
The very beginning.
yeah.
What?
It just really throws me off, you know.
Yeah.
But I got into it. But please, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Why you picked it?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of older film in animation is hard to pay attention to because it's so like long and drawn out, and there's pieces that you don't really need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And they focus too much on things they probably shouldn't, as much as like putting detail into other places where you have more questions. And it's just like drawn out. It's like hard to.
Like what?
Just the whole butterfly thing in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, I get it. The butterfly is crazy.
Yeah.
He's being weird, and he's just like dancing around and having a great time. And then they like kind of shoehorned in a lot of stuff that didn't need to be there.
Yeah.
But basically, I picked it because I think it encapsulates my childhood very perfectly because my mom, excuse me if this doesn't make any sense because I don't really know where to start. I'm very scatterbrained when I talk about things.
Okay.
I think I like that kind of stuff, like the whole what is it called? That there's like the company that made it. It's like Rankin and Bass.
Rankin and Bass.
And they made like a whole bunch of other stuff that I grew up with as a kid. But I think I grew up with those things because my mom grew up with them.
Okay.
And then I like secondhand got them because your parents force you to watch things that they watch.
Yeah.
And I was what I like to call a horse girl.
Okay.
I really liked horses when I was a kid, and I was convinced that my parents were gonna get me a horse when I was little. We didn't have a lot of money.
You were convinced? Oh God.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of money, but I would just like look up horses on the internet, like I'd type in horses for sale, and like all the horses, and what's better than a horse is a unicorn. So, but yeah, I was one of those girls that really loved horses. But yeah, I like My Little Pony and all that stuff, and I liked magic, and I liked the idea of princesses and all this stuff.
Of course, yeah.
And so when I was growing up, I watched The Last Unicorn, Labyrinth, all these fantastical movies, and I was just like really deep into the fantasy of everything. And it's like a very specific type of fantasy.
Yeah.
It's like very late 70s, early 80s type. Like everything that exists now, I don't really like it.
It was very periodic, of its time, which is interesting because I think around that time, Rankin and Bass, they'd made The Hobbit first.
Yeah, I like that movie. I like the aesthetic.
Yeah, I think it was 1977. And then Ralph Bakshi came out with Lord of the Rings the year after, 1978. But I think The Last Unicorn was their next film. And whenever I'd seen Rankin Bass, in my head, like I know they did a lot of stop motion stuff like Rudolph and Frosty the Snowman, stuff like that. They did a lot of Christmas specials. But with their fantasy films, you could always kind of tell it was them. They just this strange design ethic.
Yeah.
That was really, like they're kind of beautiful designs, but also ugly designs all smashed together in one.
That's I think that's because they were animated by Japanese companies.
Yes.
And
Topcraft.
Yeah, they have that kind of like pretty look to them when they're being animated, and then like I think the ugliness comes in with because it has that early or late 70s aesthetic. You know what? What's that called? Those animatronics that Five Nights at Freddy's is based on. Not Chuck E. Cheese, but the ones.
Okay, yeah.
They're like really creepy looking. I think they're from the early 70s, and like they thought that would appeal to kids. And it's like these really ugly designs, like everything that I think, like, why would you think this appeals to children? And somebody was like, yeah, I want that. Like,
yeah, I'd be curious where the art style came from, actually. That's something I'd really like to look into.
It feels very 70s, 80s.
Yeah, it does. It kind of, and it very speaks of that time. Like even the choice of soundtrack and everything is just so, I think for The Last Unicorn, they had a band called America write all the songs, which I was reading only today apparently went to #1 in Germany.
Oh yeah,
the year it came out.
yeah. I think they sold some kind of soundtrack or something there, and then it just never came out anywhere else.
But it's really unusual. Like, well, unusual is the wrong word, but they're very commercial choices, you know, behind a really interesting story that I wasn't really aware of, obviously, until I watched it. You said it, and I was like, okay, you know, here we go. Do you know much about the original story? Like, did you know it was a book? And
No, I didn't know that.
it was originally a book written by a guy called Peter S. Beagle, and it was I think it was consistently voted probably one of the best fantasy books written. And then it went to Rankin and Bass, but they animated it in obviously Japan, like you said. And a really interesting point, but I think a lot of people know it, that Topcraft, that company worked on Nausicaa, and then were basically converted into Ghibli.
Oh wow.
So it's really interesting to see that they did something like The Last Unicorn, and then they move on to Nausicaa, and then they go on to, you know, My Neighbor Totoro, and obviously all the Ghibli stuff, like a lot of the experienced staff. It's kind of like, you know, animators who worked on the Emoji Movie also worked on Spider-Man, you know.
You would have never thought.
Because they're still very skilled people. It's just limited by design. So I would really like to know where the design ethic came from. Because I actually don't know. I probably should have researched that. I was too busy digging into the themes of The Last Unicorn rather than the actual design ethic.
I think yeah, it does kind of look like it looks like a mix of like Japanese and American stuff. Like the Hobbit makes me think of troll dolls, like how they look, like their proportions in their face.
Okay. Yeah.
They're just very ugly looking, but it's kind of cute.
Yeah.
But people thought that was like, it's such like a Western idea of cuteness, and it's just ugly. And I still see that. I still see that today. Those dumb, I'm sorry if you like them, but the pop figures, they're so ugly. They're so ugly and dumb looking.
Loads of people love them.
I hate them, and I'm sorry if that makes anybody angry. But one day there's gonna be a landfill just full of pop figures. They're so overproduced, and they have like they just have like these beady little eyes. It's just not cute.
Anyways, back to The Last Unicorn. Tell me more.
So I like in the beginning, in that whole beginning sequence, when she's in when the last unicorn is in the forest and everything. It's a very different style. Like the background styles and stuff are really nice. They're like patterned, like repeating patterns of stuff, and it looks like a early fairy tale storybook. Medieval kind of era paintings, and I thought that was really nice. And when she leaves that forest and leaves that area, it turns into just like regular like animated backgrounds, like painted backgrounds.
They are really beautiful. That's what kind of got me through the butterfly part.
Suffering through this butterfly.
You know, and I get it. It only clicked with me yesterday. I was like, okay, butterflies move quite erratically, so it makes sense that they talk erratically, and there's a theme throughout the whole movie where people are speaking in riddles, and you know, this kind of dualism between what is truth and what is a tale. And I was reading, apparently the background style of that is based off these unicorn tapestries from like, you know, the 1400s or something, where they have these like 7 tapestries that tell a story of a unicorn.
Wait, those are real?
Yeah, it's a real thing.
I thought they painted them just for them.
No. Well, they based them on it, so it's kind of an artistic representation of it.
Oh, this reminds me. Recently, I don't know, I just really like unicorns as a kid. I feel like a lot of kids love unicorns, and a lot of, you know, it's just like this fantasy thing. I think there's so much of it now because unicorn isn't copyrighted.
True.
So it's just like free promotion almost, like, because kids love unicorns. Why don't we make a unicorn notebook that will sell like crazy? It's like a free Mickey Mouse to use.
Yeah, that's true.
Everybody
actually
loves it. It's not copyrighted, so why not just put it on everything?
That's a really good point, and anyone can use it. But everyone uses the same unicorn design, like with the rainbow mane and the sparkles and white unicorn.
Yeah, I really like how the last unicorn looks. It's all white.
Oh, she's beautiful, isn't it?
Skinny little legs, giant barrel chest. Like,
there's quite a kind of a spiraling flow to it that I really, really like, as opposed to some of the creatures they come across throughout the land. Like, you know, the harpy?
Yeah, with the saggy boobs.
Yeah, and it has like 3 of them.
It's got 3 boobs. Oh my god.
Yeah, which I was just like, what is going on here?
This is a kids movie.
Yeah, which is also actually a really interesting point because,
Is it a kids movie though?
well, it's so dark. Like it's really, there's nothing. It's not like a classic Disney movie where there's a happy ending. The ending is really bittersweet. It's like nobody actually gets what they want in the end. And even if they do get it, like, and you know, spoilers, but you know, when she releases all the unicorns, she's not exactly like she's super happy about it, because now she has to live with the regret that she was once mortal and experienced love, that she can't go back to that.
But again, okay, so to bring this up,
Go on.
unicorns don't know how to love, and they don't know how to regret.
Yeah.
They don't know what love is.
Because they're immortal. Immortals don't feel.
They don't have feelings, and they don't have regrets. Yeah, but what do they feel? Do they just go around being assholes to everybody, and not? Is that why they were shunned to this magical place? Is that why the Red Bull killed them? Or didn't kill them, drove them into the sea.
Drove them into the sea. I don't know the questions of. It's a theme I don't know the answer to, because they are like, if they don't know at a basic level how to love, like, well, I guess they're immortal, so they never really die, so they don't need to feel love to reproduce. Or anything. Yeah,
they just do it just cause.
Yeah. That's fair, actually. Yeah. I think it's more the theme of, you know, the fleeting life versus immortality is just deep seated in the movie. Like, what's the Mama Fortune? Is that her name?
Mommy Fortuna.
I
think that's what she's called. I hope that's not just weird sounding.
Yeah, it probably is.
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
She is obsessed with the idea of immortality through memory, and it's the same as that Captain Cully. Like, he's writing his own songs so he can live forever, even though they're embellished, and, you know, the deeds probably didn't happen, because he wants to be like Robin Hood, even though he understands he's a myth. It's the same with her. She wants to prove to an immortal creature that she
captured
it, so that her memory then lives on forever. So she didn't fear dying, which is also brutal, because the harpy eats her on screen.
It's very scary. That whole sequence is scary, where it breaks out of the cage. Or does the bars disappear? Or
what was it like to see as a kid, I'd wonder, actually?
It was fucking terrifying.
Yeah?
I was like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened. She got eaten. Why did she do that? Also, I had so many questions about, like, what's this crazy lady doing? Like, what?
Yeah.
There's a lot to take in as a child. And, like, the scary music is playing, and there's all kinds. I think there's lightning, too, and it's dark.
There is, yeah. Yeah.
And then she just gets fucking eaten.
Yeah, and then her little servant guy gets eaten as well.
Oh yeah, whatever his name was. Igor? I don't know.
I don't think that was his name. But yeah, that or what was it like even seeing things like, you know, the talking skeleton, or it was even the Red Bull.
I had this weird, I think it's because like kids love creepy stuff.
Okay.
But they're still scared of it. But they love to see it. And I was like that with pretty much everything. Like, I love Jim Henson, but I was afraid of puppets as a kid. But I love to watch them. And that scene in Labyrinth where all the goblins come out and start scaring Sarah. I wouldn't watch that scene by myself. I would get my mom to sit there with me and watch it with me.
Really?
And I would cover my eyes halfway to watch it. But I really wanted to watch it. So, but kids have that nowadays where they're just like really into Five Nights at Freddy's and all that stuff. But they're scared of it, and they like watching the scary Let's Plays.
Did they really? God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. When you work at GameStop, a lot of kids come in to talk to you about. I guess Hello Neighbor is not a scary game, but it's still like somebody's coming to get you.
What age are these kids?
Like 5, 6.
Oh my god!
Like they play Roblox and they watch Five Nights at Freddy's stuff.
Jesus Christ!
Yep.
That's a big question as well. Like, what you kind of have to respect kids in a sense, that give them more credit that they understand something than just be terrified of it.
I guess so.
Well, maybe that's the wrong phrase, but I'd always think that rather than denying kids something like The Last Unicorn, which obviously wouldn't happen, but using it as a tool to kind of prepare them for the outer world, because that's what only in the last episode I was talking to Sean Mullen, and he was saying that fairy tales were essentially made to prepare kids for the dangers of the outside world.
Yeah, because somebody might turn you into a human, and
yeah,
because you're a unicorn, somebody might turn you into a human and
turn
you back into a unicorn. and make you
Yeah.
feel regret and love.
and corrupt your innocence.
And then you'll never be able to go back.
It's very bittersweet. Like, it's quite dark and deep. It's not like Ariel, who ends up with her prince.
I also thought that was so weird. Isn't Ariel supposed to be 16?
Is
I
she?
think she's supposed to be a teenager
Oh,
because
maybe.
her dad's like, oh, it's your 16th birthday. I don't remember.
That would be weird. And she gets married straight away. But even the love story in this with, what's his name, Lear?
Weird. I feel like that was shoehorned in, like very forced.
Yeah, but it's based on the book, and the writer of the book adapted the screenplay. One thing that the movie does certainly suffer from is the timing of everything.
Mm.
You know, it feels like there's a lot more to go in, but it's just kind of condensed down into 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas there's probably, it feels like there's a much bigger world that they need to talk about and need to explore.
Yeah, and everybody's okay with talking cats and with peg legs
Yeah.
and eye patches.
Yeah, this is a cat. Or they've no problem with a tree that comes to life and tries to choke someone out of love.
With giant boobs.
Oh yeah, it's so bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you ever see James and the Giant Peach?
Yeah, I love that movie.
What is it? The rhino, the mechanical rhino?
I think it was like a rhino clouds or something, or
Yes.
didn't it come from the clouds? Or?
Yeah, it kind of comes on a storm. Like
Yeah.
that reminds me a lot of the Red Bull. That kind of, ever-present creature that is only sent to basically corral and destroy. And I remember watching James and the Giant Peach as a kid and being terrified of that. Whereas when I just watched The Last Unicorn, I was like, all right, whatever about the bull. Because I could deal with, I'm an adult now. I can just kind of write these things off in my head if I've seen it before. But I could only imagine, like, as a kid, I'd be like, oh, okay, this Red Bull is pretty
Scary red eyes.
pretty scary, yeah.
And that's why I
It-
don't
it-
drink Red Bull. It made all the unicorns disappear. Also, what happened to the red? Did he die? Oh yeah, no, they drove him back. they drove him into the
sea.
ocean.
Yeah, he was cool about it. He was just like, all right, he
All
stood
right,
up for
see
me,
ya.
cool. Yeah, well, I did what I needed to do.
Also, like, so many people get introduced and then go away.
Yeah, straight away.
For
That's
no
why I feel like
reason.
there's so much more that should be compacted into it.
Like when they go to King Hagrid's castle and he's just like, I only keep things around me that I like, and also I have a magician. And he just comes out. And he just comes
Hello.
out, does a little spiel, and disappears. I'm like,
Yeah, and then just leaves. He's just like, all right, see ya, peace.
I have this magician, and that guy's also a magician, and he's trying to convince me that he wants to be my magician, so I'm just gonna fire this guy and then hire him. It's such a weird sequence of events.
It's not built out properly, because when I was reading about Haggard, they say that, he can only really derive joy from,
Unicorns?
yeah, because they're eternal, but it's more like he's never committed his heart to anything, because nothing lasts forever except immortal things like unicorns stuck in an ocean.
Stuck in the ocean.
So that's why he doesn't really care about his adopted son or his kingdom or anything like that, because he doesn't want to commit his heart to something, because he knows it'll go away eventually. Which I was like, oh wow, that's deep. But you don't really, like, you have to kind of sit back and think about this after watching the film, because you don't really pick up on these themes there and then, even though it's a really good performance by Christopher Lee. Like, it's a really good voice, and he's so well enunciated, and the quotes are really good from the film as well. But it feels like someone just kind of cut them all up and slapped them in. Like, there's no moments of people just kind of sitting there contemplating. There's something always happening.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of dialogue that's weird, like weirdly placed though. Because King Hagrid is looking at the I guess a lady Amalthea. They
Yeah,
renamed her
Amalthea.
when she
Yeah.
became a person. He's looking at, he just like, his introduction to her is just like, hey, why can't I see myself in your eyes? Like, he doesn't really go on
Yeah.
too much about, he's just like looking at her, and then he's like, why would that be the first thing you would notice about somebody, is that your reflection in their eye?
I don't know the answer to that. To me, it kind of makes sense that he doesn't really care about anything.
Except his reflection.
Yeah, except for seeing himself. Well, no, he doesn't want to see himself in other people's eyes. That's what kind of intrigues him. And as he says it in the film, he's just like, nobody's lived with seeing the beauty of unicorns. That's why I can see myself in everyone else's eyes.
Oh.
But I was watching a video by a channel called What's So Great About That. It's about The Last Unicorn, called Why We Must Speak in Riddles, or Why Must We Speak in Riddles. Jesus Christ. Very two different meanings there. But there's kind of themes throughout. There's kind of surface themes of, you know, people are flawed, life isn't fair, you know, regret, confront your fears, blah blah blah, corruption of innocence, you know, mortality versus immortality, blah blah blah. Okay, but then you've got really deep themes of like the shift between truth and illusions, that often appearances are usually shrouded in the film. You know, so an old woman is a super powerful sorceress, and she's shrouded all these crappy animals, these poor sad animals, into these creatures of great myth. Or why humans can't actually see the unicorn because they're so stuck in their own truth that they don't see the truth in front of them, that eyes can lie. And there's this whole layers, and it's this idea that you don't deny something. It's simple complexity. Like, you don't just write it off. You have to kind of spend a bit of time because you can't see everything at once. Which, when I watched that, I was like, oh god, okay, I see it now. I really see it. I never really thought about it in that way. And obviously there's a lot more to this film because I didn't pick up on a lot of this at the start. I knew there was something there, but I didn't know what it was because the production values distracted me from the message. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You're just like, oh god, this is weird. This is so weird looking.
And it was.
I didn't really think about it too much. I'm like, yay, unicorn in this movie.
But why did you pick it over everything else?
I don't. It's just like the whole aesthetic of it is very. It just, I don't know. It just reminds me so much of when I was. This also is like what is it? Metaphorical, something deep within this, some kind of meaning within this. It's like, it reminds me of innocence. It's just like,
there you go.
It's like, I can't ever get that back. So it's cool. It's very like fantastical.
With your work and stuff like that, your designs, do you ever think about The Last Unicorn in context of that? Like, has it inspired your path in life, let's say?
I don't know. Maybe indirectly. Like, I haven't thought about it. But I don't know. Because when I would draw stuff when I was younger, I would always think of that. And a lot of characters that I drew were kind of based off of her, like her human form.
Oh, yeah.
And I really like the white hair thing. Oh, man. I've drawn so many characters with white hair. I think it's because of that. Just like that wispy, cool hair.
It's a beautiful design, like her as a unicorn, and even her as a human when she's Amalthea. There's kind of something really ethereal about it.
Oh, and I like how they use colored lines as well.
Did they? I didn't notice that.
Yeah, they don't use flat black lines. Amalthea's hair is white, but the lines are red or pink.
Oh,
and they kind of do that with her skin, I think, too. They use like a darker skin tone for the lines.
Yeah.
And
is that just on her, or is it on a lot of the characters?
I kind of noticed it on and off, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's all done like that or just like certain specific close-ups or something like that.
Yeah. I noticed sometimes when she moves, there's kind of a sparkling of light off her, which I thought was a really nice touch.
It's like glimmering. She's very radiant.
Yeah, and it's also kind of, you know these kind of fantasy films where it's like a road trip and they pick up people along the way. There's also, every one of them, there's just something slightly broken about them, you know? Like, what's his name?
Schmendrick.
Schmendrick, like...
Schmendrick, that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yeah, like, it's a very strange name. It's not like a typical fantasy name.
I like his skinny little legs.
Yeah, he's a good design, I think. He's kind of very Merlin from The Sword and the Stone, but younger, with a big nose. Schmendrick, and what's the other girl that joins them? Gosh,
Mary? Is there a name Mary? No, it's Molly.
Molly.
I said it earlier.
Yeah, but like, and then even Lear, like Schmendrick, even though he's kind of randomly really wise about things, he's just very foolish about his own kind of place. And Molly had given up hope after losing all of her youth and her innocence, and she starts to give out to the unicorn when she meets her. Like, how dare you make me wait this long?
That's also really weird how she got so angry at the unicorn.
Yeah, she got
how dare you
angry.
Now that I'm all ugly and old. Like, now you see me.
Look at me.
Look at me. I'm so ugly and haggard and
yeah,
old.
and it's all your fault. because you didn't come to me when I was innocent and young.
Well, like, why does that matter?
But it goes to show that like life is not a fairy tale, despite this being a fairy tale, and it's not fair, and people are very flawed. And I think I read somewhere one of the lessons of the film is nothing will love you as much as a tree.
Oh no!
Because that was like the purest love in the whole film. Was like that devoted tree.
Just that one scene that happened for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
You could see what it was gonna turn into before they even.
Yeah, you could actually, and even afterwards, I was just like, oh, there they are still.
It's very obvious that those are boobs and that tree has a face. And he was tied directly into the titty area.
Yeah, he was tied facing it, which is a weird way to tie someone to a tree. I know there's riddles throughout the whole thing. As an entry point to a film, I don't think if you put that out now,
people would stop watching it.
Yeah, people would just give up. Like if you put that on Netflix, I think there's a nostalgia built into it. And I think as well it's because he kept referring to kind of contemporary songs and lyrics, but it's kind of strange that they make a lot of references to external factors of the world, you know, like Robin Hood, which doesn't make sense to be a part of that world unless it's our world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I noticed that they kept making references out. So, like, even the word reference, like, he's like, he told the other wizard when they were trying to, Prince Lear was trying to get him out. He's like, okay, old man, like, don't worry, I'll write you a reference.
Oh, yeah.
It was so weird.
Yeah, and there's not really, although it tries to be funny in parts, there's not really much comedy in it at all.
Not intentional comedy.
No, well, maybe. I know there's a couple of lines they tried to pass off, but it's so different to anything I think that you would have seen around that time, but also kind of similar enough that they got away with all the kind of dark themes that are hidden in there, but different enough similar enough that they could market it and sell it, you know?
Yeah, because it is very 70s aesthetic, like late 70s. And it came out in the early 80s, so it had to take some time to make. So a lot of influence came from the 70s and like fantasy. So it's got that aesthetic to it.
Because there was around the time of The Dark Crystal, there was like a mad push toward fantasy films again. I like to pinpoint it back to films like Wizards and like a lot of Ralph Bakshi's stuff once he moved away from the kind of the streetwise movies like Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic or Coonskin, and he made Wizards and then The Lord of the Rings. Like it kind of, there was so much fantasy era stuff. Like you've got obviously The Last Unicorn came out, you've got The Hobbit, Return of the King, I think Rankin Bass did again as well.
Yeah.
But that kind of explosion of fantasy, it really allowed people to explore really interesting themes and break away from, you know, the fairy tale model and stuff, but it kind of allowed people to just explore their imagination a bit better. Like there was a really good time in cinema then.
Wasn't like Dungeons and Dragons also getting popular around that time?
It could have been, yeah. And it's quite popular now as well. Like it's getting really well regarded again in popular culture. Like everyone seems to be doing it.
Yeah, well, I did it before it was cool, so
I still do it, don't worry. But it's a really nice way to explore your imagination and think about different themes and really get in there and dig deep. And that's why I like things like The Dark Crystal, because there's a really interesting mythos behind it. And that's what I like to see in The Last Unicorn as well, because I was like, okay, I want to know more about the mythos and the world. And it just really kind of gives you flavors of that while it deals with the issues of the characters that they just kind of stumble into one after the other. And I think if I was to see it again, some people are very against the idea of it being remade.
Oh, I would hate that. I would hate that. Even though like there should be more that's elaborated on.
Yeah.
But I don't want, like, oh god, I hate remakes so much. Just the trend of it now is just really bad.
Well, the trend is different, yeah. But I definitely, maybe I should just read the book. That'd be way better. I'd get my explanation of the mythos then.
Yeah, and you don't really think about it too much because when you're a kid and you're consuming the movie, you just it's like, oh, look at all these colors and stuff. Wow.
Yeah,
it's
and you're just listening
around
to the story.
Yeah.
You don't care about themes or whatever. You know, you're just experiencing it. Whereas now as an adult, I'm constantly looking for themes and deeper meaning, and I just wish I could turn it off sometimes and just enjoy something.
I don't sometimes that kind of annoys me a little bit, like people trying to put meaning to stuff that isn't there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's because when I was in high school, I went to it was, what do you call those? It was like some kind of, it wasn't like public high school, but it was something you had to submit an application to, and then you would just continue your high school education there. But it was more specialized in like art, like science and medical stuff. So when I was there, I would just draw random shit, just like very surreal situations and just things. And my art teacher would be like, oh, so it's like, this reminds me of like some kind of, so for example, I drew this, I just drew it because it looked cool. We had a project where it was surreal, and it was this guy, he had like a candle head. Like he was made entirely of wax, and like his head was half melted, and there was a wick coming out in the flame. And then I drew a octopus lady, like she, like almost like a mermaid, but with octopus lower half. And she was riding on this big, stringy bone monster with hair. It's hard to describe, but she was like walking up to him, and I just drew it because I thought it looked cool. And my teacher's like, oh wow, you're saying like it's like he's imparting enlightenment on this lady who's like doesn't know what she's doing in life, and that's why she's like half octopus and it's very clumsy. Her life just isn't together. So I was like, what are you doing? This is
just a cute picture. Maybe you're right. That's a good lesson to learn. Stop.
Like, not everything has meaning.
Overthinking it. Yeah.
Sometimes the curtains are just green, not because there's some weird meaning behind it. I watched the Minions, so
we all did.
God.
We all watched it. Anyways, do you have any final thoughts on the final unicorn? Oh my god.
The final unicorn.
That's the remake.
Final thoughts. Unicorns don't love or regret.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go through change, I guess.
Yeah.
And learn about new things.
Do you know, I'm really interested to see why it's not more popular now, that film. Because you think right now with pop culture the way it is with unicorns, it would be a perfect point of entry for so many kids that love unicorns. Like, why do you think it's not?
I think it might look weird to some people.
You think so?
And I also think that it doesn't age well in storytelling, because storytelling has changed a lot over the years. Usually when you're telling a story, you try, I wanted to make a video about this too. You have to catch the viewer within the first scene.
Yeah, and not distract them with a butterfly.
Butterfly singing about random shit for too long, for way too long. So you have to capture the viewer or the reader if they're reading like a comic or something, and you have to do that all within one panel, and there has to be some kind of action going on, so that you're like, why is this happening? And I want to see why it happens, so I'm going to watch more of this, or I'm going to read more of this. And it just doesn't have, like, you're questioning, you have a lot of questions about why is this butterfly singing, like, what is happening? I can't remember if it was just for the title sequence or like the credits to come up. I don't know. I don't remember.
I think it was just after the sequence.
Was it?
Maybe it was just before.
And then the butterfly comes in? I don't remember.
Because the start is like the two guys in the forest, and they're like, oh, the final unicorn must live here. Protect these animals, unicorn, and then they run away.
Oh yeah, they're like shouting into the forest.
And then it kind of goes to her like, am I the last one? And then cut to Tapestry.
Walking man's road.
That's a wonderful final thought, Jesse. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's great. I keep trying to call it the final unicorn. I don't know why.
It's the final one. I was kind of hoping the movie would end where she dies. That sounds bad, but I don't know.
It was heading that way, you know?
Because she like put her horn, or like touched Prince Lear with her horn when he was dead, and then he became alive. So I thought that maybe she was going to give her life to him, and that's the lesson we would learn, is that. But I thought it was going to be like that, where it's just like, oh, we did all this for nothing, and all the unicorns are fine now. They're back to the forest. Yeah. But this one sacrificed her life for all of them.
Well, in a way, it kind of has a little touch of that, with the fact that she feels regret now, and she'll always feel like that forever. So she's lost a bit of her immortality in that sense. But yeah, she didn't die. I think she would have to be human to die. Can they die, unicorns? Why am I asking these questions to you?
I thought immortals can die, but if nothing happens to them, then they live forever. Like some outside force has to.
Like a lobster.
Yeah. It's like a lobster. It just grows and grows until its shell eventually kills it.
But there's a lovely lesson in this film about confronting your fears and
Yeah, but they get defeated so easily.
because they didn't stand up to their fears. You know, they just were like, all right, let's go.
The Red Bull just dies instantly. They're like, get away, get back into the sea.
Cheers,
He's like,
lads.
okay, bye.
Yeah. Oh, you got me.
Here it goes.
Turns out it's all air. You know. See you later. Jesse, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was really nice talking about The Last Unicorn, and like I said, I'd never seen it before, so it's nice. There's some things of Rankin Bass that I'd not seen, and they're definitely a studio that I'd like to look into further. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. But yeah, we'll leave it there.
Bye.
When the last eagle flies over the last crumbling mountain.